Well, good evening, and good evening. I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening, this afternoon on the 28th of the 11th, 2024, which is Thursday in the UK. And welcome to another evening of, you know, Thursday night in review. And of course, there's lots of things. I always say that you cannot sort of keep abreast of the amount of things which happens and which is happening each week. This week we are seeing the advent of tomorrow. There's going to be the debate on assisted dying. This is going to be a big one. It's going to be a mammoth one tomorrow. Is it people like playing God or so? But let's have a discussion. I don't have any views directly on it, but just want to sort of engage with different views. And of course, there's a big thing also which has happened in Australia, where there's a ban on social media for children under 16. Well, the law is coming into play as well. Big ceasefire in the Middle East, which is looking up. Is it the advent of Trump, or is it Biden, or what? There's so many different things which is happening out there. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, and I'm going to bring in Garry. Sorry, let me get my. Let me get something here. Make sure that I've got power. Make sure I've got power here. Yeah, I got power. Definitely got power here. Yeah, so without further ado, let me start the show. Good evening. Garry, how are you doing, sir?
Not bad. It's great to be on the Seymour or the Sylbourne Sydial show. So
Yes, sir. Well, it's another Thursday night. Sorry, not Saturday. It's another Thursday night. We are back again, looking at what are some of the top news or so which is happening in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank those who are joining me on Instagram. Adam, how are you doing? Those who are joining me on TikTok, those who are joining me on Facebook as well. And I really like your input into the discussion today. Garry, each week when we come on, we always talk about what are the you can never use the same news cycle of last week, even though sometimes they develop. But this week is a new week. This Thursday is a new Thursday, and some big things which are in the news. Are there anything which is to your interest or so, which is out there now?
Well, I mean, everything I think is every and anything could be big news today.
Yes.
Right? We could really have a field day when you consider what's happening out there in society.
Yes.
Yeah. But we'll just go with the flow with what you have on.
Yes. Yes. You know the one of the big news which I'm seeing, which is out there, and I think is a main one actually, and one could talk about this one all night really, and it's the advent of assisted dying, which is going to be a major debate tomorrow in Parliament. And if I just sort of just set the stage a bit, assisted dying refers to a practice where a person receives help from a medical professional to end their own life, typically in cases where they are suffering from a terminal illness or experiencing unbearable pain. There are different forms of assisted dying, include euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide. Euthanasia involves a doctor or another medical professional actively administering a substance, such as a lethal dose of medication, to end a patient's life. The patient requests the action, but the medical professional performs the act. Physician-assisted suicide involves a doctor providing a patient with the means to end their own life, often in the form of a prescription for lethal medication The patient then administers the medication themselves. So the term assisted dying is often used in discussion about the ethical, legal, medical aspects of end of life decisions. It is distinct from suicide because it involves active support from medical professionals. The practice is controversial and is legal only in certain countries or regions with specific legal framework and safeguard in place to regulate it. But lo and behold, the UK tomorrow there'll be a debate in Parliament, and that debate will be about this whole aspect of assisted dying, hope, fear, faith, and love. You know, you know, about this thing. Gary, is it? I put it out there in my thing, and I put it out there for persons as well. Is it that Parliament or are they playing God?
Are they playing God?
Yeah.
There could be an I was gonna say accident. There could be a debate in that area, as if they are going to be playing God, because um, I wouldn't really readily agree for anyone to decide whether one lives or dies. You understand what I'm saying there, sir?
Mm,
I believe that yes, there are some situations, there are conditions, and it's even as we speak right now. There are some families that um, that are battling with having to look after that they wouldn't they don't want to see that person suffer the way
yes.
how they are suffering. And even those who have just found out that they have a particular condition, and they feel it necessary, they think it better um that they go the way by expressing that they would like to be assisted to die.
Yes.
I don't think I think that is, I mean, that in and of itself is suicide.
Mm,
That is suicide. And I mean, for the individual, I think that is suicide. And it could even probably argue that it is murder, that there is some degree of murder um, associated with that. Yeah.
is that one of the reasons why the debate is trying to legalize the whole process? Because when I mentioned earlier in my write up, which says involves a doctor or another medical professional actively administering a substance. Now, the the act of murder is the mens rea and the actus reus. The mens rea is the mindset, and the actus reus is the act. So, therefore, what this is actually taken away now is the mens rea, whereby there's not the mindset to want to do it. So, there's a legal thing right there, but the actus reus will remain in place, which is actively administering a substance. Now, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about like persons who are vulnerable. When persons are at a particular age or maybe with certain sickness, they tend to be maybe vulnerable. Is it that this might just open this massive sort of floodgate whereby, you know, sorry to say this, but hospitals are overloaded. There's the need for space and everything. You have persons who are taking up space, or so therefore they are now going to treat people like, I don't know. I think there's a danger ground there at the same time, and I look forward to see what this result is. Some MPs are actually move divorcing their minds or divorcing their thoughts, divorcing their thinking, and trying to engage with the public, with their constituents, to get to the bottom of it. What is it, so they can actually vote, because it's going to be a free vote tomorrow, Gary. It's going to be a free vote whereby you won't have the whip. There's no whip, and MPs will have a free vote in it. And for the first time in almost a decade, MPs will on Friday debate and vote on whether terminally ill people should have the right to end their lives. If anyone is listening to this and listening on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, or so, Instagram, let me hear your views about this. What is it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why you agree? Why you disagree as well? And it says if MPs vote in favor of assisted dying, it could lead to a significant change to society in the UK on par with reforms around the death penalty, divorce, abortion, and gay marriage. So, Gary, this is a big one.
It is a big one. It is a big one. I haven't. I mean, really, I've had no reason to think about it before now.
Yeah.
Before it's really being brought into the public domain. But I'm wondering if persons before they got to that stage, you spoke about people getting to the age of vulnerability and all of that, but again, I'm sure there are people who, when they were in their right minds, thought that if they did get into a particular situation, that they'd want to, that they would consider what they're doing. You understand?
Yes.
I know that I mean, we're living in a world that I won't say there's anything that is new, and it's not that people have not thought about it before now. I believe people have always thought about these things. Some you'll find will never do it.
Yes.
No matter what comes their way, they would never do it. Some would contemplate. They're middle in the road, and there are some who they've already made their decision that if they found themselves in any particular situation, like being terminally ill or so, they wouldn't want to go through whatever it that they're told that they'll have to face. They've already made a decision
Yeah.
that they want the assisted dying process. So some have already made that decision long before anything was found out of what they want to do. So I don't know. It's going to have a profound effect on our society. It will. It will.
Yeah.
Nothing. Um. Not there isn't anything in our world or in our, let's say, in our country that does not have an effect. Everything that any decision that we do or that is done always
Yeah.
has an effect. We may not feel it, we may not realize it, but it does have an effect on society.
So there's a cause and effect for all of this which is happening there. Um,
Yes, there.
I see we're dying about claim assisted dying bill is racist in a bizarre rant against David Cameron. That's what Dan Abbott said. Dan Abbott has suggested that the assisted dying bill is racist in a bizarre rant against ex-Prime Minister Lord David Cameron. Abbott, who's opposing measures to provide end-of-life treatment for terminally ill Britons, warned there were no safeguards in place to protect poor people, disabled people, black people, and Asian people. He said David Cameron is wrong because David Cameron is a supporter of it. Now, discrimination is a fact across society for poor people, disabled people, black people, and Asian people. This includes both the health and the judicial system. The assisted suicide bill offers no safeguard against it. Yeah. The ex-prime minister who served as foreign secretary in the dying days of Rishi Sunak claimed he previously opposed changing the laws because he feared that vulnerable people could be pressurized into hastening their own deaths. You know, when we know there's no cure, when we know death is imminent, when patients enter a final and acute period of agony, then surely if they can prevent it and crucially want to prevent, we should let them make that choice. It will be very interesting to find out what is the biblical perspective of this. Like, what is God saying in this? Like I say, what is God saying when it comes on to government and politics? What is God saying in regards to Israel and Gaza? What is God saying in regards to Ukraine? What is God saying in regards to Trump and Kamala? So what is God saying? What is the church actually saying? Is the church, put it this way, is the church have a position on this? And I put that question to ministers who are listening. If you hear this over, what is the church position on assisted dying?
I mean, let me. It's a difficult question to ask because I can't speak for my church.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's why yeah.
And probably again, let me say that on the other hand, as a minister in a church, I think I have to be careful how I answer that, how I may attempt to answer that question.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a disclaimer right here that the views which is expressed by Reverend Garry Graham is his own personal view, not the views of the church.
And I'm not trying to make any excuse either. I think I've got to make that quite clear.
Yes.
I believe that we have to recognize that the things that are happening in the world today is of the result of one thing. And what is that? What do you think that is?
Sin.
It is sin.
No?
It's disobedience.
Yes.
What man did in the garden, that was the fateful day. That was the point that really tipped the bucket over, and all the water, everything that was not, that shouldn't have been spilled, was spilled because of sin. Then we have, because of disobedience. Sin is sin, but because of disobedience, because Adam and Eve did what they should not have done by disobeying God's word, then everything came into the world. Sickness, disease, wars, anything that is of a sinful act and nature was given the remit to do and to wreak havoc in the world. So that is the major cause.
Yes.
What I believe that the church, now on the other hand, the state church is what? What's the state church?
In the UK here, in Church of England.
Right. The Church of England, and I may not get any support on this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Because England, quote unquote, is known as a Christian nation.
Yes.
Right. And is governed by the Church of England. Yes. Well, when I say governed, I mean the standard in which the British or the United Kingdom standard is based on, really, I would say, is spiritually is by the Church of England. And the king or the queen is now the king, is the head of the church, isn't it?
Yes.
I believe that. Now, when certain things come to the fore, such as assisted dying, and there have been, over the many years, there has been many instances or quite a few laws that have come to the fore, discussed in Parliament, discussed in the House of Lords, and then it goes back to Parliament. Isn't that the right way that it does? I'm not too sure, Sylbourne, how it does, but it's discussed in the House of Lords, and that's where the bishop, certain high-ranking.
That is so very important what you said right there, Garry, because there's that debate and talking about getting rid of the bishops. as well. And they said constitutional, the bishops have been there for years. It's a part of the hereditary thing, and because of what is happening with some of bishops and everything like that. So there's a sort of a back debate talking about getting rid of the bishops. They are sort of like the
Well,
vanguards, the
yeah.
moral
Well, do they
vanguards.
make do they make any are they do they make any change? Is there any sense for them to be there? Because the conscience of the nation or
Mm,
the conscience of the government, I don't know which way, who would put where, who would put that where, whether it's with
yes,
the people or the government. But the church ought to be there and not only heard in the House of Lords, but heard in the country,
mm,
um, either to oppose or to support. And as far
yeah,
as Gary Graham is concerned, I think too much has gone awry, and the Church of England, as far as Gary is concerned, hasn't heard anything.
yeah,
Now they may come, and anybody from within that church, the Church of England, may say, "Well, we have spoken, um, we have let our voice be heard," but I haven't heard that voice. I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing what is
you
being
know, you
said.
know, yeah,
And I believe still that the church, and when I say the church now, I mean the Church of England, has let down this country. Not just now, but it has let down the country over the decades. Because
yeah,
too much has been allowed to come in. And when we do hear the voice of certain
mm,
bishops, sorry, the Archbishop of York, the Archbishop of Canterbury, certain other high-ranking bishops in certain areas of the country, when they do begin to speak or when they are heard, it's too late. It's
yeah,
far too late. Now, one other thing, Sil, before you
yeah,
either move on or say something, is that the Church of England and or even the Roman Catholic Church, which is very highly respected. Yes, because we know that down in the historical data tells us that Henry VIII broke away from the Roman Catholic Church,
and created his own church.
which is the Church of England. So we
Mm,
know that the Roman Catholic Church is very, very highly respected. That goes without saying. But then you've got other churches such as the Pentecostal churches, the evangelical churches. We've got the independent churches that have sprung up in the recent years that seems to outnumber very much the the other churches like the Baptists, the Methodists, the and the other churches. Now, if they do speak up,
mm,
when they are speaking up, they're not given the support. And some of
yeah,
these mainline churches do not even consider some of the independent churches, Pentecostal and or evangelical. They don't even consider them as churches anyway. So there
no,
seems to be a disconnect between the churches, never mind church and state.
mm.
You understand what I'm saying there? And
It,
so,
it, it is very interesting what you're actually saying right there, because it makes you wonder, a debate of this level here, of this high level, when there's such a thin line, when it when depending on the outcome of it, there could be murder which is happening as a result of this. And then because of the laws now being changed and revised, one can mess around regarding with the laws. Now, the moral factor of it, I would say, the moral factor is, who are the vanguards of morality in society now? Should be the church, isn't it? And the voice
yes,
and the
morality, the vanguard of morality,
yeah,
and the fine line between morality and immorality seems to be blurred or
yes,
blurring or even disappearing. because
Yes, yes.
to some extent now, it would it would be seen as if in some areas we are even legalizing immorality. So anybody that does any type of immoral living, or or
Mm,
wants to bring in immorality to some extent, nothing really is being said, or if anything at all has been said, then the individual or the organization, which again, let me say the church, because at this
mm,
point, the church, that I'm going to say the church, I'm not only
mm.
including or speaking specifically about the um the Anglican church. I'm now speaking about the church across the board, bringing in including, let me say, including the Roman Catholic, including the
Yeah,
Baptist, including the Methodist, including the Pentecostal churches, which are wide and vast, and they do have an effect on the community,
mm,
because within the community, which the Pentecostal churches and also the evangelical churches operating, they do affect the community, but it only seems that it's just the immediate community that it affects, because if any of these ministers, including myself, if we begin to stand up and
yes.
to speak out against immorality, we're quickly shut down. We're quick. Nobody really runs to our
Yes.
aid. Nobody stands with us. If we do, it is kind of hushed up, there is a sense. There's a sense of you know wanting to quickly just shut you down a bit.
So
Very.
what we say in Jamaica is like the church need to keep out their mouth and stay out of these things. That's what you're saying.
Yes, something like that. I mean, we're
Mm,
looked on as if we're not with the times.
yes,
We're not with it, and
yes.
so it's just brushed to one side.
Mm.
But then
Now,
when problems do happen,
yes.
they're then looking for the church to say something, but they've
Shut
already
the
quieted the church.
like they take God out of the whole picture. Some
The
some
whole picture.
well, some of the MPs here are saying the hardest decision of my career. MPs wrestle with assisted dying choice. Now, this now falls back onto members of parliament, the type of persons, the level of integrity, where they stand spiritual also is so important because they are now deemed as the vanguard. Because I was listening to and watching a debate, not a debate, but like a town hall meeting where MP, the gentleman which you can see right there, um, was having this discussion with lots of persons, and you could see that he was listening and trying to get an idea, trying to get a feel of everything. Because at the end of the day, he's the one who will have to go and vote, but he's got to listen, engage with the constituents. And what some of them are actually saying is that hundreds of MPs have spent the last few weeks sifting through the evidence, emotions, and ethical dilemmas of the bill, and they grapple with their decision. Four MPs, which I mentioned: Dan Tomlinson, Jess Asato, Rebecca Paul, and Catherine Fuchs, spoke to the BBC about how they have been making up their minds. Tomlinson, the new Labour for Chipping Barn in London, says he definitely feels the responsibility on his shoulders to have thought this through as Friday draws clear. The issue has split Parliament, and the outcome of the vote is unknown. Now, Gary, what this is actually saying now is this is just showing the level of responsibility upon parliamentarians. This is actually saying now the level of responsibility which is upon the people of society to get involved in political representation, because they're going to come upon these challenges. So, therefore, what this is actually saying to me now is that the vanguard of society are members of parliament.
Again, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I do believe, I do believe that um well, let me say this. I don't think it's just
Yes.
up to MPs. It's not just down to MPs. I
Yes.
think that the ministers of the gospel. I'm not going to say minister of religion. I don't want to say. I think minister of religion. Yes, that is a good title. But I
Yeah.
think individuals like myself, because I'm not going to say hide the fact that I'm not to say that I am not a minister. I am a minister. I'm a minister of the
Yes.
gospel. I have found out, and as you know, some years back, I can't remember how long ago it was. You may be able to tell me, remind me still.
Maybe I wasn't born yet, Gary.
No man, no. I mean, I don't think I'm that much more older. I mean, I don't think I'm got years ahead of where age is concerned.
Yeah.
But I ran for council. You know that.
Yes.
There
Yes.
was a time I ran for council. It was in the West Midlands area. It wasn't up in West Yorkshire. But anyway, the experience that I gained from that, I was a minister at the time. I was still a minister at the time, pastoring
Mm.
one of the local churches of our organization in the West Midlands area.
Yes.
But the point I want to make here is that I gained experience, but also valuable knowledge for me, which
Mm.
was that as a minister, I believe I have more influence, and I don't know if power is the right word, but let me use
Yes.
power for use of a better term. The
Yeah.
influence and power that I have as a minister in the community probably is far greater than an MP. Now
Yeah.
I've said that to say this, that okay, as a minister, I may not be in the council houses. I may not be walking the corridors of influence within the council, the
And
town
and
hall,
passing the laws and passing the
and
laws as a legislator. Mm.
but I'm very much in the community. And if the community, wherever the ministers of the gospel are concerned, wherever they are, people respect them. People look up to what the minister of the gospel has to say. I know that there are
Mm.
some, well, put it this way, there are some who don't live good moral lives, and they have failed. They're human, they fail, and it affects the community.
Mm.
That affects the community, because when the community hears what the minister of the gospel um, has done, or whatever it may have happened, it affects them, because they make decisions based on what the minister has done, or what you
Yeah.
know are falling into. But yet, when the same minister has, if that same minister begins to um, live a life and do good in the community, it affects the community, and he is sought after for counsel, for guidance, for direction, and whatever he says, people listen to what the minister of the gospel
Mm.
has to say. And I believe, my friend, that now is the time. Now is the time for the church. When I say the church, I'm not only looking and referring to the Church of England, which, yes, to me, I want to make it quite clear to anybody who may be listening. To
Yeah.
me, I believe they have failed up to this point, because they're not speaking. And if they have spoken or made certain decisions in the past, some of the decisions that they've made, to me, wrong. But that's
So
me. Who
yeah.
who who am I for them to then say, well, what right decision should they have made? But I believe that they have dropped the baton many times, and when they
Yes.
decide to pick it back up, probably it's far too late. But I
Yes.
believe now is the time for the ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ, wherever you are, whoever you are,
To
you
rise up.
need to now speak up. We need to
Yeah.
speak up. Comes
Mm.
what may, comes
Mm.
what may. We need our voices to be heard, because whatever the MPs, some of them, not all of them, sadly to say, but whatever the politician seems to be saying and passing, in Parliament here, which is here really in the corridors of
Yeah.
power, when the government is called to vote. Some of them are not making it on behalf. They're not making decisions on behalf of the community in which they are represented. There are
Yes.
lots of them are making are voting and making decisions based on themselves, what they
Yeah.
want, that
Yes.
what they want to see.
Yeah.
and
Well.
and and sadly some of these people won't be truthful, because
Yes.
if probably if I said it in front of them, it may be
Yeah.
right, but they will say no, it's not. I'm making it on behalf of the community because the community has said this to them and has indicated that to them, and probably they haven't got any data to give to show us
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they haven't been to the community, but they're just speaking on behalf of themselves, really. But to
Well.
me,
Yeah.
that's what it's really is for me anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up on this bit here regarding the key aspect of the discussion here tonight is about the assisted dying in the UK. The laws are to be passed tomorrow. Well, considered to be passed tomorrow. There's going to be this debate and the House of Commons. And just to sort of give a sort of overview, at present, the laws throughout the UK prevent people from asking for medical help to die. You know, but there's a backbencher Labour MP, Kim Ledbetter, terminal three adults end of life bill could change the legal position in England and Wales. The bill, what is known as a private member's bill, the government is impartial on the issue, and the proposed legislation says that anyone, it says, anyone, listen to this, Gary, this is it, anyone
Yeah.
who wants to end their life must be over 18 and live in England as well in Wales and have been registered with a GP for 12 months. Okay? Note
All
that.
right.
Have the mental capacity to make the choice and be deemed to have expressed a clear, settled, and informed wish, free from the coercion or pressure. So they're checking these checks and balances. Be expected to die within 6 months. Make two separate declarations, witnessed and signed, about their wish to die. Satisfy two independent doctors that they are eligible with at least 7 days between each assessment. And under the proposal, a High Court judge would have to rule each time a person make a request to end their life. A patient would then have to wait 14 days before acting. A doctor would prepare the substance being used to end the patient's life, but the person would take it themselves. See how it's working, Gary, The bill does not say which drug would be used. It would be illegal to coerce someone into declaring that they want to end their life with a possible 14-year prison sentence, you know? So you see, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, ladies and gentlemen. This particular bill, which they're hoping to come through um, tomorrow. Sorry, let me just see something here. Okay, yes. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so it's a very tricky bill, ladies and gentlemen. This bill, which is going on in the UK for tomorrow, and it's going to be a very interesting debate. Don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it because I'll be at work, but I don't know. But let's pray, because how I see this bill is that, as some concerns are, it could open the floodgate for persons to be and for it to be taken advantage of at this time. So that's a very good one. That's a very tricky one. So we just pray for God's wisdom and pray for God's blessings or so and guidance at this time, because you got persons who are going to be very vulnerable, and what you don't want is a situation where it can be abused, where people can take advantage of it and start to murder people. Yeah, that's how I see it. And these are some of the concerns which have been raised as well. The other thing also which I saw, which I want to touch on that. I don't know if Gary is going to come back. Oh yeah, Gary, you're back. Are you back, Gary? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, we move on from that now. So I set out the stage, and we see what the outcome of that result tomorrow is going to be. Um, Australia, um, as passed the bill, and this one is very interesting. This is about Australia. Said Australian Senate approves social media ban on under 16 years of age. Yeah. Australia will
Uh-huh.
ban children under 16 from using social media after its Senate approved the world's strictest law. The ban will not take effect for at least 12 months and could see tech companies fine up to 50 million Australian dollars, 32.5 million US or 25.7 million pounds if they do not comply. What are people's views on this? I mean, do you know they say that many of these guys who own these social media companies, um, they do not allow their children to indulge into these, Gary. You know, they tend to not have their children so much involved in this, or to be involved so much in social media until they reach a certain age. Get them to read their books as well. Go outside and play. You know, get not hung up in your bedroom or so, just on social media. So is it that Australia have the right sense, or is going to be a backlash with the children coming out and getting mad?
I think, well, I mean, if I'm understanding it correctly,
Yeah.
I think then, you see, everything is out of balance.
Mm.
Everything is out of balance. And I think that, um, because we seem to be, I don't know, because we seem to be, um, we're heavily into the social media, aren't we?
Yes.
It's about social
Yes.
media you're looking at it. We're heavily into social media world. Without social media, I sometimes wonder how we survived when we were going to school.
Well,
You know, we didn't. We didn't
I think about that sometimes. When you have to going home. Now you call your children when they're on their way and so like that. But years ago, you know what I mean? Until you reach home and use your your phone or so, or when you never had any phone. How did we operate that time? You know what I'm trying to say?
exactly. How
Yeah,
did we? How did we?
yeah,
Um, and so when we're trying to make some corrections now, some corrective measures in some
yes.
respect to certain things, it's far too late because though as it could be said, the horse has bolted.
Horses
So you can't
bolted.
you can't you can't then close the you can't close the gate to keep the horse in when the horse is just is free, is in an area where you didn't want it to be. You can't.
because
It's very difficult.
because it would come across now that even some schools now are so you have to have a phone in order to do your work, or you be on social media to a certain extent, but maybe not social
Exactly.
media. you know you have to have a certain level of phone knowledge and phone etiquette, in a sense whereby that's the way how things are now. So Australia, we will watch to see how it unfolds. But I think the media houses, or some of the social media houses, are saying they move a bit too quick, and there could be a backlash because they've been doing certain different things by setting up different checks. So make sure that parents are so under 16 shouldn't go on the the social media and certain apps. And the thing about it is that the companies, they're the ones who are going to get fined. It's not going to be the parents or so. It's the companies going to get fined for not um, setting in place certain precautions or certain guidelines or certain things.
No, I mean, okay, that's one thing. But what about, you can't, it's like you're giving the teachers the power over the parents when when to you're taking the power from the parents to the teachers, and then you blame the
Mm.
teachers that the child is not learning or whatever. But yet,
Yes.
the discipline starts in the home. The
Yes.
discipline is home. And so it is the parent. It
Yeah.
is the parent that ought to set the parameters. And because the government now has stepped in, how the government stepped in, Sylbourne, is that some years back, not just now, some years back, the government stepped in and basically told parents, you cannot correct your child.
Yes.
Or or the child, once the child has a particular number that they can call to say that they've
That
been
means
either
child
verbally,
abuse.
financially, or whatever abuse
Mm.
they want to say. The government then steps in, take the child out of the home. What do you expect? Or the
Yes.
child stays in the home, but the parent cannot discipline the child because the child has the upper hand. Now, that is complete foolishness. That is foolishness right there.
Yeah. The Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, says the legislation is needed to protect uh, young people from the harms of social media, something many parent groups have echoed. Now, you have said a while ago that then it should be the parents who should be putting certain things in place, because I know some social media company or phone companies or so, they have this thing whereby you can shut down your phone. We put a certain restriction on the phone that the phone shut down at a particular time, especially with children. Critics saying the question over how the ban will work and its impact on privacy and social connection have been left unanswered. You see this thing now? Social connection, because Garry, the social connection of physically being there with persons is not there anymore. Social connection now is connecting by your phone. The social connection, that social intercourse, which used to be there when people used to meet each other, play ball, skip rope, fling to rock stone and bust your head 2 times and stuff like that, and you go home and you cry and all them things. You buck your knee, as Mr. David Chen, isn't it? You buck your toe and everything like that, and you know you're not going to worry about going to school with bandage and then social service going to investigate what happened to you. The boundaries are not in place. So what they're saying here, what they're saying here in this thing is that the harm, and they said there's a global problem, and we want young Australians essentially to have a childhood. That's what Albanese said, introducing the bill to the lower house last week. We want parents to have a peace of mind. So therefore, what is happening here now, it seems like the government is coming out now to say they want to help and to parent the children. That's what is happening. Taking it away from the parents again, putting in the hands of the government.
And the government is not set up to run the home. The government cannot
Yes,
run a home. I mean, it can hardly manage itself. Never mind run the millions. How many? What is the population of the UK again? Or of England, is it 60 million?
60 million or so. Well, according to the immigration statistics today, which they're saying they're overrun by immigration, so it may be gone up more by 20 million. Sorry.
Okay, okay.
Everybody's
Let's just say 60 million. The
yes,
government is impossible for the government to run 60 million. Well, it probably be more. I don't know. But let's just say 60 million homes. It's impossible.
mm,
It's impossible. Government is not there to run individual homes. The government
yes,
is there to set laws in order to keep the population safe and to
yeah,
make sure that the population, is adequately looked after. But you
yes,
see, when governments come in and they have their own little individual agendas, these MPs
yes,
here, they have their own little agendas. That's why we're in a mess.
mm, mm. Now
And and
it's yeah,
and sorry, sir, and we need godly men, godly women, godly individuals I know we are not a. I know you are not a. This show is not about religion and such. No, it's not.
Mm.
But I think that it's needed. It's needed. But
You see,
again, we don't. Not every God. Not every
person that call himself God, person that
yes,
is a
a godly man or a godly individual.
yeah.
No.
I'm glad you say that, because of recent days you have seen whereby ministers have been caught with their pants down, well, figuratively and literally speaking, of course. You know what I mean? Figuratively, literally, you know, and lots of men are, and lots of people are making these allegations against men of cloth. And so you're right about that. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and therefore no one is perfect. And I think that's the most important thing. But that does, just because a few have, that doesn't mean to say all have. But a lot of people have been burnt in this way when it comes on to the church and men of cloth. But it is very important in light of this particular discussion when it comes on to social media. And ladies and gentlemen, I put this to you. What do you say about Australia banning social media for children under 16 in Australia? Right? Australian Senate approved social media ban on under 16. So therefore, you got a lot. Gary, you know what's going to happen? I tell you what's going to happen. A lot of these children mentally they're messed up again. Gary, they're
Well,
psychologically scarred.
yeah. I mean, I think as parents, we have to take the blame for a lot of things.
Yes.
Now, I can tell you straight off, and some will probably say,
Mm.
I'm just fit for the loony bin, and probably so, but but my
You're
wife
guarding
and
your words.
yes, my wife and I, as
Yeah.
parents in our home, we did not allow um, government to dictate
Mm.
how we governed and
Your
ran
home.
our household. No,
Yeah.
it's not. That's not their duty.
Yes.
That's not their duty,
Mm.
right? And I said to my children, my children, they're not scarred. They're not perfect, but they're not scarred. They've all four of them have done very well for themselves,
Yes.
and I'm hoping and I'm praying that they will continue to do well,
Yes.
do well. But I told my children that number one, I am willing to go to prison for them
Yes.
because I wasn't going to mess up in not disciplining them and helping them to be the persons that God intended them to be. I wasn't going to turn a blind eye, and I was not going to allow them to tell me what they think that they wanted in the
Mm.
house and in and under my family. And two, whenever they went to school, I said to them that if there's anything that they hear their teacher tell them and it didn't sound right, and they would and they to some extent knew how either their mother or their father, us, felt
Yeah.
about it, they were to stand up or tell the teacher that it's not so.
Yes.
And if they did and that if needs be, we would have to, by coming home to us, we would have gone down at least to kind of find out what's going on, what is going on, what were they teaching our children. Now
Yeah.
the thing about it is that sometimes we as parents, and I'm talking widely now, generally, we as
Yeah.
parents, we allow the teachers or the school or the educational system to
To dictate.
dictate
Yes.
our children. And that ought not to be the case. And we have all sorts of teachers, all sorts from all walks of life. And they look good, they
Yeah.
dress well, they talk well, they behave,
But they still
or
a
what
duck.
uh, but
Mm.
When they're left alone with the children, when they're left alone with the children, whether it is primary school, junior school, or high school, these warped individuals, whatever it comes out of their mouths, it affects the children.
Yes.
And that is why we're going to be having problems in society now and in years to come, because the parents have not
So their ground.
stood their ground. No, they haven't.
Yeah.
They just
They're,
allowed
they're
the school
what they said.
to do
What
it.
they said. What they said. They have relegated or delegated or let go the authority of the house to the government or so, and the persons who are government and those policymakers, some of them are totally warped. The point that you mentioned there, as we wrap up, is when you mention about your children and their home. I always say this at times: the home should be a refresher zone. Mean to say that you go out there and you get all different things coming, but once you come home, it's a refresher zone. You're sort of refreshed. Like you press that refresh button sometimes. That is what should happen. You go to church or whatever like that. You know, it should be this refresher zone whereby parents take control back. So what is happening in Australia there? While it sounds good, but what I'm seeing actually is the government again coming in trying to parent the children.
Yes,
That's
and
what's happening there.
that's what you see. You see the thing about it. What is the reflection? No, what? Yeah, what is the reflection of society? The reflection of society is the home. If the
Yes,
home is warped, then the society becomes
it's
warped.
warped. Yes,
When you have families that are trying their hardest, when you have a father and a mother in a home trying their
yeah.
hardest to stay
Mm.
on the straight and the narrow, let me use
Narrow
that,
part. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, as an example. When they are trying their best to hold their family together, it's difficult because society is not showing that. Society is telling the child, listen, do what you want.
yeah,
You are the power in the home. You
yes.
dictate. For instance, when a parent or when parents in the home trying to hold their family, their daughter, their son,
Mm.
whom they love
Mm.
together, right? Together, and they go to a school, and when they walk into that school, that teacher with that warped mind then comes to the child and says, "Who are you today?" Do
Yeah.
you when they go to a child, when they go to a little boy and say, "Do you know you could be a girl today?" Or when they go to a boy, do you know you could be a girl today? Or go to the girl, do you know you could be a boy today? Or even further still, they may even go and say, do you want to be a cat today? Because there's things out there saying, right, that um whatever you want to be, that's who you are.
Because
So
there's always this saying you can be whatever you want to. Whenever I hear that all the while, and you can
so
be
hold
whatever
on,
you want to be.
hold on a second. And this is
Yeah,
a true thing. This
yeah.
is a true thing. I was told some months back that this child in school wanted to be a pineapple. And you know that because this child identified as a pineapple, they couldn't do anything.
Jeez.
And the child, because in the youth offices or in the youth
Mm,
departments, they have social workers that go into schools and help
mm.
children who are troublesome. This particular social worker,
Yeah.
in when they were addressing the child who identified as a pineapple, was there having attitude, the social worker had to turn around and say, listen, pineapples don't talk.
All right. One second. One second. One second, Garry. I had to say that. I had to do this is this is this is ridiculous. I saw
It
Piers
is
Piers
ridiculous. It is
Piers
very ridiculous.
I saw Piers Morgan. Is it Piers Morgan? In some debate with some guy and say, "Listen, I identify as a black man." And the guy, after the guy was saying he identifies as yeah, but I identify as a black man. Am I wrong? And the guy said, "No, you can't be." I said, "Well, why can't I be?" You know what I mean? Because the guy was saying he identifies as something. Listen, you're right about that. I mean, the world is gone a bit warped and everything like that. But
It's
hey,
gonna work. It's gonna work.
yeah, but hey, Middle East peace. They're saying, is it Trump factor or what? They're saying the sort of ceasefire,
Well,
which is
it's very well. It was last. I'm sure it was last week. I'm sure it was last week. He
yeah,
said it's funny. It's very strange that as soon as Donald Trump won, it's as if all the troublesome areas, not all of them,
yeah,
but just for the sake of most of the troublesome areas, was looking for some way to bring a ceasefire because Trump.
yes,
It seems that there is a an is the aurora
yeah,
um
aura, yeah,
there's an
or
aura of that he carries about him that
mm,
shows to some extent or brings some kind of fear amongst world leaders, some of them,
yes,
and when he comes in he ain't going to mess around, he's not
yes,
messing up, he
yes,
means business. So there was something quite strange about this,
mm,
about even the peace deal that Hezbollah wants to make with Israel. Who would have ever thought that Hezbollah wants to have peace with Israel?
yeah.
Who would ever
And
want that?
and if you see what is happening now, even with Ukraine and Russia, after Ukraine launched those things into Russia, Russia just come back and lick them and turn off all them lights now and everything like that because and say, listen, guys, don't mess with me, because I know. You see, what I don't know. I believe what Putin is doing is actually saying to them, just keep it cool. You know what I mean? And I believe that has been emboldened by Trump factor there because they're trying to come to some sort of arrangement. And what I'm seeing also with the Trump factor is that world leaders, UK, everyone is saying, depending on the Trump. I mean, when Biden was becoming president, you didn't hear nothing like this. When Biden won, nothing was going on. Oh, Biden's going to be president, and that's it. Carry on with the world like everybody said, Trump is gone. It's like everybody. But I believe with the advent of Trump, I think things are going to happen. I know a lot of Americans are leaving America, so therefore they might have more space for immigrants anyhow, still, because a lot of people say they're leaving.
Well, that's what I said the first time when he won, and
They
they
didn't.
never.
They didn't leave. Whoopi, Oprah, all of these guys say they're leaving, and apparently there's a place in America where people can go and they can scream and make a lot of noise, go ah, they scream because of the fact that they lost, And Kamala came on recently. I don't know where that video came from, but the video was really poor. I don't know. Sometimes it's best not to say anything. She looked really drunk and haggard and all those sort of things. And I'm sure the video wasn't doctored. If any,
Well,
the video which was doctored was one showing her drinking, which she wasn't really, AI. They had a bottle of her, like she's drinking and, talking and say, we need to fight. I don't know why they keep saying fight, fight, fight. Why don't they talk about we need to unite and work together? They keep talking about fighting.
well,
Ah,
I mean, there was some news out there that don't know if you saw it. I think it was on the internet where it showed, and there was a caption underneath to say that Biden and Kamala weren't talking. I don't know
I
if you
wouldn't be
saw it.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because I've not seen them together.
Well,
Even
that's
even,
been, but
even
that's
with
been in
the even with the
long
turkey thing. Even with the turkey thing, when they save the turkey, normally you have the vice president and president there. And today's Thanksgiving. I've not seen them together. And I believe the wife, Jill Biden, I think the last time they didn't even talk. Stony face. So
yeah.
trouble in paradise. But anyway, Trump is coming in.
No, I mean, I wait, as some would say, wait with bated breath to see what's going to happen, what really is going to take shape when Trump.
Yes.
But the thing about it, I mean, I mean, Trump is bringing, is making up his cabinet. I mean,
Yeah,
the guy Trump, he's been more proactive than any of the presidents before him. Really, I've never
yes.
seen, I've not heard much of any presidents in recent years, decades probably, that have
Mm.
been as proactive and as him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really.
And he's working very hard and so like that,
Yeah,
Well, Gary, well, have a good evening, and we watch to see how the outcome of the vote tomorrow, and just really pray that the will of God goes through, and also for the church to arise as much as possible,
yeah.
as well,
That's my concern. I mean, that's
yeah,
that's that's my greatest concern in this country. That yes, there are a lot of ministries. There are a lot of ministries in the many cities that we have
mm,
in the UK. There are a lot of pastors, a lot of
yes,
organizations that
yeah,
yes, they preach. Yes, they do great work. Yes, I
yes,
think we want to highlight that. Sir, they do great work. However,
mm,
however, it's not what we're doing by way of feeding the people and clothing people and helping people with their problems, whether
yes,
in marriage or anything like that. But there's another practical part that we need to play, and that is to
yes,
make the voice of God, and
yes,
God's voice to some people is only when we stand and we speak righteousness
yeah, with
into the
authority, yeah,
with 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 authority,
yeah,
and that and knowing that it is God who has given us
yeah,
that authority to speak, just like the
yeah,
prophets Ezekiel,
yeah,
Isaiah, Jeremiah, and all of these men that went on before us. So we've got work to do, not
yeah,
only again socially, but
yeah,
we've got spiritual work to
mm,
accomplish, and we can only accomplish that really when we have God with us.
yeah. And there are two men of God who fainted recently. It was T.D. Jakes. I think he fell down while he was on the pulpit, and I think Marvin Winan as well. While they
Well,
were up there, so
there's a lot of speculation on these things, my brother. It's sad.
yeah,
You see, when I don't want to prolong it a bit, but let me just say this: when the world is in
yes,
such a mess, as we all know, across the globe, but within the church, when the community and society needs needs to have that stability and looks towards what the church is doing and what's going on in the church, and sees that things ain't too right there and there's a lot of
yes,
speculation and questions going on, then
yes,
what are we to do? That makes even my work harder. No, I'm not.
yes, yes,
I don't have a
yeah,
large following. I don't want a large following to some extent like these men.
yeah,
But
because people
makes
are gonna say, "Look on that, look on him." Huh? Them all
yeah,
say the same.
okay, it
Yeah,
makes it hard. It makes it
yeah.
hard.
All
But we
right,
need
well,
to
Garrett,
pray
yes,
for them. Though. We need to pray for them.
yeah,
We need
yeah, definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much. Those on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, thank you for joining. And please feel free to like and subscribe, and also comment on the topic tonight about assisted dying. Would love to hear your feedback as whether you're for it or not. And secondly, also about social media, Australia banning. Passing Senate to ban social media to children of 16 years and under, and something like that I believe will pick up around the world also. We look at it and to say that it is like the government again want the parent, whereby it's a parent should be really putting restrictions on their children, you know and giving it over to social media platforms to sort it out. Yeah. Gary, listen, have a good night. Yeah. And peace out, and all the best, ladies and
to.
gentlemen. See ya. Thank you.